Chapter 16. Our lives turn upside down. At this very moment, Jacques surveillance systems warn us of the threat. Forced entry, building under attack. Forced entry, building under attack. I react immediately. I grab my weapons and blast the canopy at the back of the apartment with my Mauser. The blast shakes the walls and creates violent turbulence. We have to jump now. I hold on to Clara, petrified with terror, and pull her into the void. The sudden plunge causes her to shriek. We're some 40 meters off the ground. I throw out a cable with my arm, which sticks to the glass wall. We watch in horror as the wall closes in, far too fast for our liking. The shock is terrible. Clara loses consciousness for a few seconds. As soon as we hit the ground, we flee with long strides into the dark alley. Behind us, a few hundred meters away, the wail of sirens announces the intervention sections. The defensive devices I've installed give us a few seconds respite. The explosives go off. We barely have time to run into the first sewer that comes along. We've suddenly become fugitives, outlaws, hunted down without mercy. Here we are in the interlevel technical areas. Sewers, data cables, power supplies, etc. circulate here. We advance cautiously. We have to go down. I've got no choice. We have to be forgotten. Disappear. My only refuge lies 3 levels below. I have a crudely equipped storage box that will serve as a fallback point. Its existence is ultra-secure. The false tenant is a dead man for whom I regularly pay rent. We go through a series of airlocks, corridors, and ladders. Finally, we manage to make our way through unhindered. We emerge into a pillar tower that takes us down to the lower level. We continue. I take this opportunity to send a secure message to Jacques and Gabriel. Off you go. Quickly. We're being tracked. I've retrieved some highly sensitive data. We must flee. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. I'll send you the files. Please be careful. We're making progress. Into the heart of the pillars. We pass the 3 levels without too much difficulty. I use my detection gear and my various visions, but there's probably no activity to suspect. We exit. Another few hundred meters and we've finally reached the shelter we'll be staying in. In fact, rather than a refuge, it's a voluntary prison. A particularly Spartan, cramped space. But this is where we'll have to stay away from everyone. Away from my people. But above all, away from Caleb and the security sections looking for me. Chapter 17. Our voluntary prison. We've been voluntary prisoners for nearly 3 weeks now. We're locked up in one of the few secret exiles that guarantee our safety. A squalid, cold, damp cell in a corner of level 12 of our dome. One of the last habitable floors. Below, there are only machines and a few rare mutant pests. But there we are. Or, an ersatz of us. Clara and I, a couple adrift, a million miles from what we used to be. Every day punctuates our decline, and tomorrow will be even worse. The torments of our daily lives are cracking the ramparts of our love. I thought I was strong enough. I was mistaken. After what happened, we had to flee. They couldn't leave it at that. Even if she maintains the opposite, I know Clara will end up resenting me. And she's right. I'm the one who caused this situation. At times, the pain of our daily lives makes me lose my mind. Everything becomes confused. I almost forget what brought us here. Yes, now I remember. I made it through with the secrets about Africa. Honestly, I was very lucky. I should have died or been captured. But miraculously, I got through. So we had to organize our retreat. We hid here. In this dead zone that's killing us little by little. Gabriel, my brother, and my uncle also had to hide from our secret services. We're all illegal and wanted. But it wasn't all in vain. Deep inside me, in my most hidden registers, I've been able to save the data. We're in great danger because we know. And the state doesn't want the truth to infect the social order. Whether we like it or not, it's because of me that our lives are destroyed. We won't be able to do what we did before. Living in hiding is our only hope of living at all. But here, in this cesspool, life is no longer life. It's cold, dark and damp. The walls ooze. Filth is everywhere, seeping in everywhere. So much so that it pollutes our souls. I'm starting to think about turning myself in. Suicidal madness too, fortunately temporary. I cling to her, Clara. Even carnal pleasures have no place in our daily lives. We argue more and more often. Being constantly together wears each other out. Stress sometimes overrides reason. Nervous breakdowns can even explode at any moment. One night she even threw herself at me. And any thought of love or tenderness was far from her mind. I was rudely awakened by a nocturnal fury. She threw herself on me, straddling me in tears as she screamed and hit me with all her might. My awakening was explosive. I pushed her back violently and got into position to strike back. I was ready to give her a terrible blow in the face. She only had a few tenths of a second to avoid the gesture too far. At the last moment, I struck wide. The faded mattress that serves as our bed was the victim. I hit it so hard I went right through it. We stood still for a moment. In awe. I for having wounded her and she for having narrowly escaped a blow that would have disfigured her. It took us many long minutes to relieve the tension. This night was the most terrible. But we have to face it. Carry on in spite of everything. And our reserves are depleted. So we need to replenish our doses of energy. Even if we're not very active, our artificial bodies are crying out for doses of energy in other synthetic fluids. This need is another excuse to throw our respective anger in each other's faces. Going out to look for something to feed us seems like a life-saving distraction. Going outside at last. Breathing in the impure city air again. It's almost as if the nauseating smells outside suddenly become as sweet as a field of flowers. It's been an intense struggle, but I want to preserve it. So I'm going to get us what we need for a few days. I activate all the anti-detection parades Jacques has given me. They turn me into a cyber ghost. I no longer exist. My image disappears from the city's surveillance networks. I move forward without virtually existing. Even the people I meet are hacked by my systems. Their vision is altered by my programs. They don't see my real face, but an avatar created from scratch. My voice is altered too. I can move forward on this level without too much risk of being spotted. But I'd rather not be away for too long. I quickly buy a refill and head back to our squalid refuge. But before turning back, as we had agreed, I hide a self-contained transmitter. It will deliver an encrypted message to my brother. Rendezvous in 2 days. Those 2 days seem interminable. But, at last, the time has come. We must join my brother and uncle. At last, we're going to leave this pestilential cell. Still in stealth mode, we set off for the hypercenter sectors, 30 levels above. Today is a special day, and we're going to take advantage of it to disappear into the crowd. It's the traditional Holy Day of Sales parade. Everywhere, brass bands march through the city, leading the way for the promotional floats. Their passage is heralded by advertising messages appearing on the levitating spheres so common in our urban decor. After a long journey, we're greeted by a shower of luminescent confetti, as the big names hand out samples of their latest products. At regular intervals throughout the year, these festivities arouse popular enthusiasm. From the remotest districts of Epoxia, families flock to take part in these national holidays orchestrated by the city's shopping malls. With the government's approval, they have abolished the old, backward customs of public holidays, leaving only purely commercial days, during which consumers can earn almost unlimited credits to satisfy their compulsive shopping bulimia. I pay little attention to the extraordinary spectacle of the street, looking for my brother. Just as I catch sight of Gabriel, the Textronib laboratories float past, escorted by 2 chrome tyrannosaurs who shake the ground with every step, triggering collective hysteria. Children, perched on their father's shoulders, shout and applaud the 2 chrome behemoths. I disconnect my stealth functions only for Gabriel. Only he can detect me. He picks me up and we can finally meet. He sends me a mental message. At last, here you are. I was beginning to worry. Jacques is waiting for us in the Kanzer. Let's get to safety. He comes over to give us a hug. Suddenly he pushes me away, pulls back and steps back. Our hygiene has been more than neglected of late. Our sense of smell may be adjustable, but Gabriel puts his hand to his nose and his expression is unmistakable. We smell terrible. This scene has the merit of making me smile. That's something. But we mustn't dawdle, so we follow in his footsteps and head for the parking lot. Gabriel pulls up in front of an empty space. Jacques opens the hatch of the invisible vehicle, the Kanzer. This machine can transform itself into a sonic superjet. And its defense systems give it remarkable combat endurance. But for us, the most important thing is that it's undetectable. And what's more, it's beautiful. When you can see it. It looks like a stylized blend of a dragon skull and a tank. Jacques falls into our arms, his eyes brimming with tears. His emotion overwhelms us. We take advantage of this tearful pose to evacuate the overflow of pain. Gabriel is not insensitive, and he too joins us in pouring out a torrent of sorrow. Our lives will never be the same again. We've become pariahs, fugitives with no hope of peace. Gradually, the emotion subsides. We catch our breath when suddenly a Kanzer alert is heard. Vehicle approaching automatic parking. Potential conflict position. Response triggered, system conflict, work in the square. The vehicle then changes its course and no longer parks in the space we occupy, it continues on its way and the system designates a new space for it. Then I speak up. Have you studied what I've recovered from the bank? Jacques reacts. Yes, of course, very carefully. My brother nods in agreement. I still don't know exactly what to do with it. But I know I don't want to leave it at that. Clara leans back in her chair, crosses her arms and looks discouraged. She knows what I'm about to say. Our arguments with her have a lot to do with our fear of the future, the loss of our comfortable everyday life. But that's not all. There's also my desire to get to the bottom of things. The discoveries I've made have only fed my suspicions and my need to know once and for all what happened to my father. I continue. These secrets, these discoveries, only raise new questions. Suspicions about lots of other things. One in particular. I turn my head to my brother and take a deep breath. What happened to our father? How and why did he die? This mystery haunts me. I need an answer. And it's not just up to me. I need your help. I immediately get Gabriel to agree. His eyes widen, his head nods in agreement and with an outstretched finger he signals his approval. Jacques, on the other hand, also curls up in his chair, his body language revealing a completely different approach to things. A storm ensues in the Kanzer. A long and tedious exchange on the subject that is so close to both my brother's and my own heart, with an equally legitimate and capable duo opposite to decide our future. In the end, it's almost impossible to decide. What should we do? Should we go back in search of an answer and face immense dangers? Or consider fleeing to that forgotten continent, Africa? Despite his total disagreement, we'll go in search of the truth. To do this, we'll need to recover a little from our fugitive journey and, above all, prepare ourselves well. So Jacques exfiltrates us to one of his secret sanctuaries. A hideout known only to him. At last we pull out of the parking lot. As Uncle turns on the gas, he changes the Kanzer's mode of concealment. The vehicle gives the lie to the various urban surveillance systems by means of holographic reality. The Kanzer now looks like a genuine autonomous truck. Even the sound of the engines is modified to avoid arousing suspicion. When the first vehicles we encounter overtake us, none of their passengers notice the slightest anomaly. The city lights flash by. Everything seems normal. We don't seem to have been followed, yet the atmosphere in the Kanzer remains tense. No one is laughing or smiling. The flight continues. I ask Jacques where he's going. I've got a hiding place in the outer sectors, on the south side, he replies. We'll be safe there, the area is abandoned, we can easily disappear. Jacques pushes the reactors to their optimum ground speed. After a few minutes, the Kanzer has covered the 150 kilometers leading to the southern outer sector.